the world, an interpretation of the reality with religious scope. In the case of the South American, the Brazilian South American population is a Christian uh, scope approach. And it's protected by political actions, and it's being always focused on the weakening of democracies, of the democratic processes. It is important to emphasize that fundamentalists are not uh, balanced. They have various members inside of it. So, and they identify the common enemies, such as the strengthening, we can see the strengthening of the attack against women. We have, for example, from the girl from Espírito Santo, which was a victim of this fundamentalist actions, being directly helped by the Ministry of Damaris. And we have this oppositionism as a strong characteristic identified in the entire government approach, the denial of the vaccine and this anti-science propaganda. And I'd like to stress to reinforce the claim for the impeachment with Protestants and Catholics. And the answer, why do we call for that? Why do we decided to do this request? It's because this government support basis is Christian, and we have been supporting. We signed the request for impeachment. The social community of churches has also claimed for the reformation of the political system. And we have been working 7 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna sum up. Together with social organizations. However, we we think that it's necessary for us to compare what we were doing. It's a very successful strategy because we have been doing from yesterday to today. We have been seeing the increase of churches being against the Bolsonaro's government. You have many examples of that. And the Brazilian Presbyterian Church, is very much interested in making it our education private. Thank you very much.
Eu gostaria de passar agora para o Clemente,
Pastor Romani, thanks for your contribution. I will speak to Clemente. He has also 7 minutes to speak. Thank you, Liege. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, with all the participants of the World Social Forum. I'll try to speak to you quickly. Elements that I consider to be fundamental in the basis of democracy and the debates of the popular movements are doing, especially the unions. We need to consider that 2021 will be a long moment of suffering. It will be a harder year than 2020 in facing the crisis. What we did in a certain ability of performance against this crisis. So we're going to be seeing all the outrageous things, and we are going to have a long period of resistance. Also, we have to think of 2021 and 22. It's a period of resistance, but it's a short period to build the policies that we want to build. So we need to consider this double dimension of the time of suffering and the scarce time for building the policies that are necessary. I say that the time is scarce because in a in a large amount, there is um, social forces that Bolsonaro represents, expressions of a presence of a nation with the strength that they have. Part of it is result of the insufficient response from the democratic field to the deep changes that are happening in the capitalist economic organization of the world, the deficiencies in the point of view of the world of work, of labor, and the response to the problems of poverty and we are convinced that our responses were not sufficient on one side. On the other side, we have this inability of as a society to build a new society. And in rare spaces such as this forum, we can regain the the idea that a new world, a better world is possible, and we need to confirm that effectively in the way that we see the existence of the planet. We need to see the diagnosis, and we have not been able to formulate this response. So it demands a collective effort to regain the force of this vision of utopia, to improve the level of facing this problem. And third, regarding the power, this space that our field lost was occupied in a smart way by the left wing. It has been happening for the last 30 years, and it's not simple what has been done as a result of the electoral process in the United States. The right wing and the extreme right wing is quite strong now, and they should be put in their right place. And we have a long path of struggle. In the case of Brazil, we need to consider that Bolsonaro does have a clear project of authoritarian state and an authoritarian society. This project is in course, and people who think the things he does are outrageous, who don't think that the things he does is outrageous, they are part of this project. So we need to be intelligent enough to be bigger than the ignorance that mobilizes the resistance and the political ignorance that is behind this strategy. Disinformation, lack of knowledge, and things that are part of our day-to-day lives. All forms of expression of this policy need to be dealt with as it was presented. It's really paramount to be understood. There is a large complexity that we need to understand to face this problem in a very effective way. Having said that, it's necessary for us to be clear that we need to build in our field the unity, an unbreakable unity in our field, something that we maybe have never been able to build. It has to be done in this time between this year and next year. So we have this unity, and we have not been able to do it in a strong way. We may have done it partially, but we haven't done it effectively, and we have to do it quickly now. It is a strategy of construction of political bonds in the grassroots of the democratic field, and we are honestly far from it. We need to speed up our pace, and we need to enhance and expand our capacity of tolerance among us. Also, this base of unity must be able to give support to the alliances in our field, and it will mean political capacity that will be able to combine our innovation in the economical responses and the social and political responses, as well as the ability to have a field that is able to regain a project for the development of justice and environmental sustainability. To do so, it is paramount in our debate. for us to have the ability to reestablish bonds with social bases in the most different communities in this country. We need to recover our ability to do the grassroots work with the goal to prevent the states to become an operating machine for these churches. So there is a sustaining network for this authoritarian work, and we need to combat that, giving effective responses to the real problem. So to do this grassroots work means to have a bold response and an immediate and consequent response regarding vaccination and regarding protection. Yes, we need to be present in the local governments for the vaccination to be done in a transparent way in all the order necessary with the program, the culture that we have to have a program that is really safe and right. The emergence financial package is really necessary to be effected, to be really approved. No matter the result is in the Congress, we need to give strong pressure for them so that we can provide protection to people, to the
E a agenda da
lives of
solidariedade.
people, and the agenda of employment and solidarity. Our organization presented other initiatives that have to be developed, but I believe that one of the dimensions that we need to have clear is the effort that this popular mobilization needs to make in terms of building the strengths to face the coup that's going to happen soon. An institutional coup, similar to what Trump tried to do. It's going to be like a Brazilian version of it, with all those threats and lots of noise to get what they want. So we need to strengthen our institutions to face these attacks. But we have done it before, but we need to be much stronger to have this resistance, and the social movement really have to have an articulation, institutional articulation with the political parties, with the institutions, the churches, the Brazilian Association of Attorneys, in a permanent way in the Brazilian state. We need to build articulations with the media companies. We many times we criticize them, but we need to have a consolidated relationship with them to regain a democratic state of law. We need to have this grassroots work to be advancing in the work of solidarity, in our presence in the everyday life of the communities. So our presence in the communities needs to be recovered in an extended way, trying to fulfill this gap and occupy what the spaces we need. And lastly, we need to have to understand that the facing of the agenda of impeachment is done to denounce this amount of outrageous acts. We need to strengthen very clear actions, such as the one that Homer, as we saw with the churches in the time of impeachment. We need to mobilize the organizations in different spaces, in the communities, in churches, unions, for everyone to be present in the National Congress to uh, force the impeachment, for people to affirmatively give statements on that and providing to the Congress people, to the congressmen and senators, for them to be pressured for this topic to be present in their everyday lives. This topic is part of the the world, institutional world that we need to build to be able to effectively put a barrier, an obstacle to this outrageous process. But we need to understand that it is a long fight, a long struggle that we need to have the historical patience and the urgency for the time being that we have. So these are the tasks that I would like to highlight in our debate. Thank you so much. Thank you, Clemente. Now I'll hand the floor to Vilma. She's from the Black Coalition. Thank you,
Thank you,
Liege.
Liege. Thank
I
you.
salute all our colleagues, our dear friends, we black people. It's important for us to say that we need to take down this genocide government. We are among the most organizations, 60 organizations, international and national organizations. We put an impeachment request on the table of the lower house. Uh, as long as we have racism, there's no democracy. And because we do not accept the denialism of the wing parties, we are part of the feminist and the black struggle. With the advent of the basis of Alcântara and the aggression to more than 300 Quilombola communities in the territory of Maranhão, to show that the American servants who serve the Americans and the assassin posture or approach of Donald Trump. We, in all organizations, with the Terreiros of Candomblé being attacked in Bahia, in Rio de Janeiro, in Brasilia, in other territories, we respond with the March of the Black Women in 2015. And it's important to highlight that with Ele Não movement, or we don't want him movement, it shows there are wrong interpretations to this movement, but it was the most important organized movement against the brutality, fascist brutality of the current government. So the upbringing of women, Brazilian women, the feminist upbringing against feminicide, and the contundent work of blacks in our alliances with many partners present in this panel, I would like for everyone, including our groups, to have a voice. I'd like to show you this image because the image is not really. I'm not been able to show the presentation. Well, to us, it is really paramount. And one or another issue that I consider to be very important is exactly our political position. Therefore, in the Black Coalition for Rights, has its voice in our country and in our tasks in all the states in Brazil, in alliance with movements such as Black Lives Matter and Levante Negro, the black upbringing. In other places of the world, we say that it is unacceptable, the approach of the capital in our country, and we have witnessed the assassination of a black man before the 20th of November by the company Carrefour. We will not be silent of that. We will raise our voices for the 231 young men assassinated in the city of Salvador between March and November 2020, including 127 young black men murdered in November and 14 young black men murdered on the 20th of November, which is the day of the Black consciousness. We need to say that our rules to reestablish a popular and democratic government has to be in an absolute rupture with any field of fundamentalism in our country. And therefore, we say out of any field of conciliation with these fundamentalist powers. This involves, as a matter of fact, the election in the lower house. of Brazilian government. And I don't say congressman, I say congresswomen. It's a semantic struggle as well. On January 30th, our dear comrades, ladies, men, will go back to the streets for the taking down of this government, and the social movements are back. And our voice in the capitalist world is found as we organize ourselves in the social forum, which will only state the greatness of feminism and the greatness of the anti-racist struggle. We don't need any denialism. And the left wing field in the country acknowledges the possible politics that is possible that happening in the United States in this moment, thanks to the political action of the black women. They are with Biden and Kamala Harris. It only happens with a strong political action led by Stacey Abrams, Latoya Brown, and other political leaders. The act of Joe Biden yesterday to end in all the federal prison institutions, to end the privatization. We want many politicians in Brazil to be occupying the field of the independent media in this moment, giving statements about this issue. It is an open wound in Brazil, and it's the horror of the war, the so-called war to drugs that kills many people in Brazil, especially black people. So for us, we have promises of world leaders with necessary changes around the world. What they're doing, what are they doing now in the Davos Forum? Here in the social forum, we're going to respond that it can only be possible, whatever decision they have there, will only be possible if the world breaks apart with the new liberalism, and the international leaders have to see their mentality. The central role of leadership that we see of the United States opened our eyes, and we see the political power necessary to go after 2020 and reach 2021 without noticing the political revolution made by the feminist women and the black movements done in Brazil. Okay, we have 7 minutes. So thank you, Liege. So the Black Coalition for Rights, we organize ourselves with over 160 organizations in Brazil. 80% of them are black organizations such as Coletiva, Maim, Crioula, Aconaki, and many others. It's key that we want in this context is that from the World Social Forum, we will look at experiences as Durban that today uh, completes 20 years. And in September, we will complete this 20 years of this event in Durban. And us, as organizations in Brazil, we want to guarantee the permanent basic income to discuss the digital sovereignty and fight for vaccination for all the peoples in our country and protection to the genocide of our people. We have, after 20 years after the first World Social Forum, and in Brazil today, we have 1,200,000 young people killed every year. We have thousands of young black men disappeared in our country. These are the figures in our democracy, and over 1 million people in jail. So it is a tragedy for us. We understand that with the strength of the leaders of the Candomblé terreiros, when we organize our fight against the religious intolerance, this World Social Forum happens in January 2021, when we celebrate and remember that we have 21 years of assassinations that happens due to religious fundamentalism. Of Jew from the Herrero, one of the most important terrorists in Salvador, was assassinated. So just to wrap up all the violence and the threats to democracy have to be fight that we need to keep fighting in our World Social Forum. I salute all my sisters and brothers who organize in the Amazon, who were with the black and indigenous women to stop a colonial hegemony in the power. So I salute all the women that are now threatened by fascism because there's no struggle against fascism, and if we don't fight racism, we need to fight against this field of horror and protect the women. So we have to face this religious fundamentalism, showing the leadership of the women of Candomblé in Brazil. So we wrap up here that the institutional violence in Brazil and the digital exclusion and the food crisis, we need to keep fighting that in our country, and also the attack to the traditional peoples and the representation crisis. That is a debate that many times is silent, even in the field of the left wing, with the face of black feminists and all the black movements in Brazil to say that there will be nothing about us without us. We don't accept no avant-garde that doesn't speak on our that speaks on our names. We want horizontal relationships, and this World Social Forum has the hope of the seed of Marielle Franco. We need to look at the lessons of the political present that are affirmed in our experience in the past. Thinking of the principle of Sankofa, we will build the freedom of a country that will be free of the commanding of those who are kneeling to the economical empires. Because not even the political elegance of the Europeans and the diselegance, political diselegance that took power of the US and Brazil, they will not take out our positions. We will find our responses as we have a dialogue with the social movements in European Union, in the US, and with everyone, all men and women that organize the facing to that. What is the shame of burning the Amazon and killing young men, black men, in celebrative dates? In the day of the imprisonment of Luiz Inácio Lula Silva, this country saw the militaries shooting 257 times the house of a black family going to an event. So 1 year after the murdering of Marielle Franco, we have witnessed in this country a whole school being being shot. So we say, along with Mario Quintana, so they will pass and we will continue. So hurrah to the feminists fight, the black people fight, and the possibility of our alliance in the popular fight of our country. This is the message of the Black Coalition for Rights. This is the message of the feminist uh, organization against femicide, and this is how we do our statement in the World Social Forum. Without the feminists, without the resistance, recognizing that the journalist fact that is the strongest of 2020 in these 20 years is the feminist organization, the World Social Forum. If without all this, the World Social Forum will not understand its need and its importance, because we are here building everything, all of this. This is our struggle, our resistance. We learned with Carlos Marighella. If the bourgeois and the workers have to understand their roles, and we know who we are in the plurality and the horizontality.
Obrigado, Vilma. Eu passo agora a palavra para Kelly Mafor, falei certo o nome, representando o
Thank
MST.
you,
Uma jovem
Vilma. Now uh, it's Kelly Mafor.
para fechar essa brilhante mesa, com brilhantismo. Aí, vai lá, Kelly.
Just to sum up, to wrap up our panel, and please make your speech in 7 minutes. Thank you, Liege. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to speak after Vilma, who has called us to stand up. And our March 8th is going to be great because Vilma, Juan, Liege, everybody else that's present today, we've been organizing, preparing ourselves to implement this program in March 8th with the force of women, with Black women, Indigenous women, landless women, and urban workers, women. We've been building this new political movement in our country. My speech is short, but it's a message from the landless workers movement to reinforce the subjects that are being addressed here. MST is together with this in this program and this struggle, and to help in the discussion, in discussing these problems that the Brazilian population is having. The Al Bolsonaro agenda and this Davos forum is evident. It's evident in this forum in Davos that this virus and this pandemic shows it makes this our inequality as an evident situation. So we to fight for the immunization for the entire population, we need to organize ourselves. We need to call for the support package. The origin of the support package stresses the hunger of our population. So most women, most Brazilian women, at least half Brazilian women that were receiving the support, the aid, were not registered in the Brazilian registration. They were not registered in the Brazilian list, so they would not be represented in. And out Bolsonaro became a possibility last year. From last year to nowadays, this issue is once again being called, is being discussed, and has a great political strength. I'd like to stress that Homie is, I'd like to congratulate Homie for this important initiative to write this letter, the letter of the Christian population, calling for Bolsonaro's impeachment. And the left wing politicians have filed another impeachment request. And so we've been, and also a sort of a movement, a sort of mobilization of the right wing um, politicians and some middle class population. We won't be subject to the right wing movements. So we want to save people. We want to reinforce all the subjects that we have been reinforcing here together with Al Bolsonaro's movement. We'd like to stress also that in addition to the subjects that we've been supporting here, already mentioned by the previous lectures, we need to call for an immediate activities, immediate actions. Homie mentioned that we need to face fundamentalism. So we need to increasingly open up to our people, to the Brazilian people. We cannot deliver, we cannot surrender. We cannot just let go. We cannot give up. And just to say that our people is fundamentalist. We need to call to talk, to speak to our people. And we're seeing that something's changing. like Rudy has also mentioned. So last year, MST was pretty much involved in with other organizations with in the building Periferia Viva movement, which was a natural solidarity that's been in place. We implemented popular banks. We need a specific and a clear practice. We need to put into practice these actions, not just discuss about it. Just to sum up, I'd like to reinforce that this huge motto of the World Social Forum, the thing that we need to create a new world. We need to say that this new world is urgent, is necessary, and we need to radically change the relation between the humankind with nature, and we need to denounce that the origin of this pandemic that we're facing right now, it's directly related to the destruction of tropical forests, rainforests, the changing of ecosystem, the changing of the habitats of the animals, and the use of animals for human consumption. And we need to make a radical change, because we're in a country that has a high level of exportation of agricultural business is very strong here in Brazil. So we need to take advantage of that. So we cannot. So this is why we need to take a stand of our immediate subjects. We need to demand the support package and the structural changes that are necessary to our country. It's a great pleasure, Liege, on behalf of the National Coordination of the MST, to be part of this table with activists that are so important in our struggle, in our fights. Kelly, you're very brief, and I'd like to thank your valuable contributions in this first time, in this first panel, the first set of this table, which addressed various subjects that are going to be added to our struggle, the things that we are dealing with right now. So these subjects are very important for us to discuss. We live in a presidentialist system without a president. So, and this is true. I think that's true. So I'd like to call Mauri, to give the floor to Mauri, who's going to present a few subjects, a few issues to the panelists, and then you can give your comments on that. They're being presented by Mauri, and then you can choose which aspects you'd like to stress in your speech, so we can advance on our discussion. So I'll give the floor to Mauri. So good afternoon to everyone. So I'd like to stress the importance of this panel with many members representing our movements for this campaign, this Al Bolsonaro movement. We haven't, you don't know about it, but there's been a war behind the scenes. There are hackers trying to invade our forum. We've been fighting against it. We have all of our networks working on right now, but we had a little bit of a struggle. Uh, uh, but Aline Silva is saying in the chat that Brazil is calling for support, is crying for help. And she concludes that, such as Vilma has mentioned, that we need to step up. And I'd like to congratulate the World Social Forum, and especially the feminists and warriors, the feminist women that are here, people here who are representing the Brazilian women. So like Liege has mentioned, this debate, we have debated on these issues, and I would like to show, to talk about the issues that you can complement. You can choose one or another issue to be discussed here. But I think it's very important to comment on issues that somehow help us to move on with our campaign. What are the next steps? So our organizations, our movements, and our people, the members, the people that want to be a member in our Albus and our campaign, the people that, how can we have this encouragement? How can we attract people to take part in our campaign, in our outposts in our campaign? The second issue is, what is our strategy or strategies for the campaign, can so the campaign can be spread out through the media? What are the alternatives? What can and what we should do to break this media support, this media uh, shell that is being protecting the media, the press is celebrating Bolsonaro's attitude, his absurd attitude. So what we can do about it? Third one, how can we jointly build strategies to encourage the peripheral populations in the main cities here in Brazil in terms of the Al Bolsonaro campaign? And we need to address this joint activity. How can we do this jointly? And last, and at last, how to dialogue, to communicate with the justice, with justice workers and people who are in power here, to promote this democratic change. When we get to, when accomplish this impeachment, how can we and should we communicate with the military forces to implement this impeachment? So these are the issues that we'd like to discuss in this round. Thank you very much. So 3 minutes for each one, to each one. So first of all, maybe you can start from Kelly, with Kelly. So she's just singing. Okay, Kelly. Thank you, Liege. Well, I'm just going to be brief. I think, how can we encourage, how can we attract people to the campaign? It's important for us to take our campaign outside our bubble of our movement. We need to communicate with people. We need to address issues that are being discussed with people. That we had this motorcade and Saturday's motorcade, where we have to discuss the health situation. Another subject that we need to address. Another strategy that we can use is to communicate with people that are there working in the health system, in the health facilities. And we need to call the population, need to discuss with the population that they need to get immunized. So it's necessary for us to get this scope a little bit wider. So the movements need to keep these actions, to keep it going. These actions are not only just to deliver some food items. It's a natural action. It proposes, it has consequences. So there we have 14 million unemployed people. So it's very important for us to to call their support, and we can use the solidarity actions along with in the peripheral populations. And I'd just like to stress a little bit about the security forces. There is a threat here in Brazil, but it's been increasingly This threat, this impeachment, this reaction to impeachment is being increasingly reduced. This threat about the of the military workers they're going to fight against an impeachment movement is not so is not well founded because although they have weapons, they have not enough power to do that. So that's it. Thank you, Kelly. She's been sharp at 3 minutes sharp. So thank you very much. I didn't even have to call your attention to keep the 3 minutes. Now,
Liga o microfone, senão a gente não lhe ouve.
can you turn the mic on, please? Now, Vilma? Yeah, I did it. So I'd like to thank Kelly because her answers were great. We had this Giro das Onze panel, and it was great. You inspired us. You inspired me to answer. I'd like to tell our comrades here that one way that we need to put it into practice is to implement our groups in our communities, in our cities, so you can access the community group webpage. I'm gonna have Frente Povo Sem Medo, Frente Brasil Popular, Justice and Peace Commission, and many other community movements and groups. So why this is important? We can search for these communities and search for these groups and see what they are doing, these actions that we're doing, doing every day in missions, what we do in the worker in the women's and young people's uh, groups and candomblé groups, what they're doing right now, what are the quilombola groups are doing. So what they're been doing right now, and how can we organize all that to encourage the entire population. So this is very nice. This is the strength um, of many aspects in many movements. How can we do that? Going to the streets with our flags, with our agendas, and with courage to speak up, to get our voices heard. We need to say, of yes, we are Black women, we are feminists. We cannot deny ourselves. We cannot not deny what we are. We have to explain what we are. The feminist movement against feminicide in Brazil, this campaign said that we need to donate R$ 1 to stop feminicide in Brazil. So this is fundamental, this is paramount to stop feminicide in Brazil and to encourage population. Okay, I had another minute left. I'd like to say that we cannot communicate with the military forces. They're trying to dispute military truth, but allow for hypothesis. So I'd like to say here in Bahia, we organized many people, Fátima Freud, Tânia Palma. There are many women here organizing a community committee to face COVID-19 various neighborhoods here in Salvador and supporting quilombola population. And we created Cestas Básicas de Liberdade, which is a project together with Rosa Luxemburgo Institution, Foundation. We go we give to women we give them a book on feminist subjects together along with food, So we want to give help. We need to give hope to our population. Thank you very much.
Viva! Agora eu passo a palavra para
Now,
Clemente. 3
Clemente.
minutos eu aviso, Clemente.
I'll give the floor to Clemente. Please give your speech in 3 minutes. Well, I'd like to focus on the last issue. First of all, we need to consider that we have space for communication, very strong space for communication on the use of force and use of violence. We cannot undermine this possibility of the use of violence. Uh, we took decades to overcome what we've been through in the dictatorship period that we have in Brazil. So we need to take that into account. But to do that, it's paramount to have a great mobilization process. Any possibility to have a new situation, a new historical period here in Brazil, we need to encourage society, we need to encourage other movements. So this is paramount. We don't have a more important thing to do. We need to focus on answering programs such as that are being implemented, such as vaccines, emergency support packages, and everything that's being in place. And we need to have an institutional way that it needs to be built. It's not a specifically communication, but the head of great national organizations and political parties, they need to take an institutional way within the institutional system to change the political trajectory, the political journey in Brazil, to encourage a new way of thinking on equality and what is sustainability and all of the subjects that need to be discussed. So this is a missionary path that we need to take, a communication with leaderships and personalities. They're very important in the social background. So it's not a communication, it's not a discussion comprising a discussion joined by people that think alike. But all transitions that are being made demanded this construction, this movement. So we need and we have the ability to do that.
Obrigado, disciplinadíssimo,
Thank you,
Clemente. Aí nos seus 3
Clemente.
minutos. Muito
You
obrigada.
were sharp as well,
Agora eu
3 minutes.
passo para a pastora
Now I'll give the
Rosa.
floor to Shepherdess. Oh, I'm together with Kelly. Okay, now
Pastora, com 3 minutos eu aviso.
Romy, 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, I'll tell you. Okay. I also think that discussion with the military force is very complex. It's very hard to be made. It's very hard to be. How can we discuss with an institution that was responsible for many deaths? So, and also to reflect upon it, I was watching a Netflix series on Rwanda and how they wanted to dig the genocidal history of Rwanda to make up a new reconstruction progress um, project. And I think about it, we are not able to rebuild ourselves without open our to think about the past, about the people that have been dead in the past due to the dictatorship and all. So this pandemic is killing a lot of people, and we need to sit and to get a weapon, and then we need to join our forces. We need to think about the people that have been dying, that had been dead due to the COVID-19 and due to other violent actions in the past. So the crimes that are being these crimes are being committed has been by the political the politicians that are in the government right now, like Bolsonaro and all of them. So we need to dig these graves to think about, to reflect upon what has been made to the people, to innocent people. And I think that this relates to the peripheral communities because they are the people that are denouncing these graves. We need to strengthen. No, we need to hear, to listen to the voices of the peripheral population. We need to touch, we need to be touched and to change these voices. And I think, it, in my own opinion, it's my opinion only, it's not the opinion of the institution, but I think that we need to think of breakout process because we know what the consequences are. So I'm sorry if okay, she was sharp. 3 minutes. Oh, congratulations, because you're sharp on time. Now, Quintino.
Bom, eu quero também vou também ser bem objetivo aqui, até porque eu vou ter que entrar no outro debate agora também do Fórum Social Mundial. Já tá chegando a hora, também quero ser bem objetivo aqui
I'd
para...
like to be straight to the point because I have another debate in a few minutes at the World Social Forum. But first of all, I'd like to say that this subject, how can we spread the campaign, spread our word in press. The thing is, the press is only going to spread out to talk about our campaign with the support of the government, because the government it's liberal in the economy but conservative in the customs and habits. So the press would never communicate, would never spread out our campaign if we focused on not only in the economic issue. It's important for us to focus strongly on the habits and the conservative habits, the attack of democracy, the attack of the attack what they're attacking the press. So it's a set of issues that we need to address so we can call the attention to the press and make them help us our campaign. And we know that we from CUT, from other movements, it's paramount to defeat this government, especially because of the economic issue. This is one of the greatest dilemmas of the government: the unemployment, the attack of the rights, and there's a set of things that he's been doing to attack the population. But the great press is not going to address this issue. So it's very important for us to make it clear. How can we get to the peripheral populations? Kelly mentioned a very important issue. I'd like to say that, in my opinion, the solidarity issue, all these issues that she mentioned, had to be connected, associated with our Bolsonaro movement. We cannot dissociate this discussion. The support package and the solidarity campaigns with food items, everything that's being implemented right now. All of that must be associated with the Al Bolsonaro movement, or Al Bolsonaro campaign, so the population can take part of it. At last, I think it's that we cannot communicate, we cannot make any agreements with the military forces because they are not interested in a democratic discussion. And even though they do, if they do want to discuss the democratic issues, they're not have the right interests. So I'm very afraid of this perspective of communicating with them. That's it. I'd like to thank once again the invitation to be part of this debate, and let's stay together in the World Social Forum. Thank you very much.
O pessoal está sendo.
Thank you. Continue. Now I'll hand the floor to Huji. Huji, please be as sharp on time as your colleagues. Yeah, don't worry. I will be just like my colleagues. Well, I think a lot has been said. And what Mauri mentions regarding a few topics we have as a background, the questioning that comes from many people, the impeachment. Will it solve the problem, the situation of Brazil? If Mourão is in office, will it be better? We are sure it will not. What we are building in terms of political agenda today is, let's say, a general emergency aid for Brazil to stop being this figure of shame and this place of necro politics. Just to have, we want to have a flag or a platform that will be an umbrella for all the progressive forces for the long run. We understand that's what we understand. We know that if the impeachment goes on, we will have a mobilization in the Brazilian society of awareness regarding what is fascism, the process of militarization, the inequalities. It's just to say that we do not accept that in the Brazilian society. I think that the impeachment and Fora Bolsonaro, like Leave Bolsonaro movement, is just a re- restitution of the Brazil that we want, the life project that we are discussing here in the debate. And with the participation in the peripheral areas, the exposition of the territorial issues. So Vilma's talk is really sharp. We we want to help on the movement of taking out the fundamentalists of the power and the military personnel of the power. We want the minorities participating in the power and the black people, and also anyone who is aligned with the solidarity. We want to build social control and democratic participation in Brazil without being being against this project of death that we see here. But most of all, we are creating platforms that is an immediate alternative, and also the scientific knowledge that is always at stake. We need to take care of that too. So we need a social pact in defense of life, and it is really urgent as we remove this president. But we need to think in the long term. We've been having debates on that matter, and we have been presenting plans of the strategies. And also, we need to listen to the society, of course. We need to occupy the networks. We have to work in the perspective of improving the popular communication, democratize the media in Brazil. All the platforms that were exposed here, they are paths to be taken to have the national sovereignty. Thank you, Rudy. And the last one to speak is Moroni. The floor is yours. Well, I agree with many of the talks, the statements, but especially with Romy and Vilma. This debate is part of our national meeting, but I don't believe that we will be out of this hole that we were put into without a strong rupture. The democratic fronts, they do not work for democracy. They work for coup d'etats, the payment of politicians, saying that the discussions were working were solid. It's not for that. They work for keeping this power, this masculine, white, heterosexual, Christian power. If for us to get out of this trouble that we got into, we have to have a process that will involve movements. Well, actually, no, I don't believe that. I think that us as society, we can get out of this process, which is the essence of many other political processes that didn't include the rupture in its rightful place. I don't think that we can build the country that we want without doing what Romy said. Honestly, I think, of course, we need to have dialogue. We need to expand our capacity for dialogue. But I don't believe our dialogue with military forces or with the military police. Of course, there are some anti-fascist police people, and they are in our field. But apart from these people, they are really full of anger. This government has fetish for death, for our death. It's not our death as organizations or cultural process. The cultural war they do is the physical war. So we need to prepare to that. And honestly, I think that it is only interesting for us the rupture process. The conciliation opportunity that we had, and not even this our elite accepted. Our elite doesn't even affect Bolsa Familia, the aid for poor people, the financial aid for poor people. They don't even accept this. They think it's outrageous. So they think we're going to convince this elite or this mid class to have a country, a fair country in the process of dialogues. Well, we need to have dialogue, but we should really think of the rupture. And in this rupture, we need to know who will be with us, who will not be with us. I'm sorry that my last statement is not a statement that says that next year everything will be all right, but we need to face this reality. I would like to listen to finish a beautiful song from my dear friend Dej. Moroni, we are all beautiful, men and women. Well, I would like to thank the wonderful contribution that you brought to our panel. You know, it's something really impressive how one statement complemented another and it strengthened our resistance fight to this thing that is in power. Here we arranged that we had talked to the front and other institutions such as Moroni's and his participation in the Fora Bolsonaro campaign, the Leave Bolsonaro campaign. Back in the past, we did several activities, even during the pandemic, that included activities of Stop Bolsonaro movement internationally. And like to reinforce this campaign, Stop Bolsonaro. If we don't intensify this work, it's going to be hard. And we can see that how many impeachment requests have already been done, how many investigation processes that are stopped in the middle of it. So I see that today, if Bolsonaro's candidate wins in the lower house, they will stop the parliamentary investigations of health. So we really need to go to the street. And this is our goal here, exactly to reinforce the maintenance of this campaign, Out Bolsonaro, Fora Bolsonaro in Portuguese, to be one of the pieces of our campaign, Out Bolsonaro, which was presented in the beginning. As Claudio says, I can't breathe, so we can use in our campaign of Out Bolsonaro. And we have to continue this agenda that was approved in the latest popular plenary of Povo Sem Medo Assembly. In, we, we gathered over 400 people all over Brazil, and we had this fight calendar. So we need to be really aware of this calendar. I don't know if Amaury wants to say something. If not, I'll just have a song. No, Liege, please, the song. Yeah, I have this song from Gonzaguinha. Sheila was afraid that we could play that and they would take down our live stream, which is this song here that I'm singing now.
Que a vida devia ser bem melhor e será, mas isso não impede que eu repita. É bonita e é bonita, fora Bolsonaro. Mas eu não posso cantar uma para as mulheres.
Out Bolsonaro. And one for the women. This one here.
Quem traz no corpo essa marca possui a estranha mania de ter fé na vida. Auê, auê, auê. Auê, 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 lá, lá, lá. É isso aí, minha gente.
This is it, my dear friend. Out Bolsonaro. And thank you once again. To you all.
Bolsonaro! Ora! Parabéns a todos aí.
I would like to congratulate you all.
Pronto. Conseguimos.
That's it. We made it. Yeah, we made it. Thank you.
Batalha tá difícil, né, Rude? Porque Ibatira, né? Porque eu... É isso aí, né?
Yes, this is it. This is what 110